Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. We are looking at the causes of inflation. So what is inflation? Inflation is a persistent rise in the general price level. It's also the rate at which our money loses value. So what are the causes of inflation? We have the first cause of inflation, which is demand pull inflation, which is caused when aggregate demand shifts to the right. So how do you show that diagrammatically? So what you have to do, you have to draw your aggregate supply like this, then you draw your aggregate demand AD1 and AD2, then you put your YFE, so that is P1, Y1, this is Y2 and P2. So it's caused when aggregate demand shifts to the right like this. That's how demand pull inflation is caused. So it's when aggregate demand shifts to the right, we see an increase in growth, of course, but we see a rise in demand pull inflationary pressure when the price rises. So that's how you talk about how demand pull inflation is going to be caused. So that is not enough for you to render your argument about the causes of demand pull inflation. You have to go much more depth, whereby you talk about when aggregate demand shifts to the right, we're now closer to the full employment level output. So there will be pressure on the existing factors of production, pressure on capital, pressure on land, pressure on labor that forces prices to rise. So those factors of production become scarcer, labor becomes scarcer, capital becomes more scarcer. That forces prices to rise. That's how you see the demand pull inflationary pressure rising from P1 to P2. That is how demand pull inflation is caused. So another thing is that what may cause aggregate demand shift to the right. We talk about the aggregate demand equation, C plus I plus G plus X minus M. That is the aggregate demand equation, whereby we talk about an increase in consumption. Maybe there might be a fall in income tax that is cause an increase in consumption, which will increase aggregate demand, which increases demand pull inflationary pressure from P1 to P2, increase investment, increase in government spending, increase in net exports. Maybe the exchange rate has fallen, which will all shift aggregate demand to the right and cause demand pull inflationary pressure. So that's how demand pull inflation is caused, whereby we see an increase in aggregate demand causing an increase in growth by causing an increase in demand pull inflationary pressure. So we go to the other type of inflation, other cause of inflation, which is cost push inflation. This is all have to do with the supply side shocks. Supply side, not long run supply, is supply side shocks. So all the things that you have to do with the short run aggregate supply. So how do you show such an impact? You draw your short run aggregate supply, F, short run aggregate supply, then you draw then you shift the short run aggregate supply to the left like this, short run aggregate supply 2. So a shift to short run aggregate supply to the left. Here you put your growth. This is Y1 and this is P1, this is Y2, this is P2. So this one will reduce growth in the economy. Then you are going to see increase in cost push inflationary pressure. So what might cause short run aggregate supply shift to the left? So there are a host of reasons why cost push inflation is caused by supply side shocks. So those shocks are like an increase in the price of a commodity, an increase in the price of raw materials, which will all shift short run aggregate supply to the left, causing cost push inflationary pressure. Talking about an increase in business taxes like VAT, value tax, it's also going to shift the short run aggregate supply to the left. Talking about increase in wages, which are also part of the short run aggregate supply curve. So are the shocks that can happen immediately. So those are some of the causes of cost push inflation. The main one is the imported inflation, whereby you are a firm that relies on importing from abroad, importing raw materials from other countries. So that those firms will have to charge a higher price on their finished good. so that they can match their profit margins, so that they can also be able to purchase the same value of raw materials that they were purchasing before when there was an increase in inflation. So that's what we mean by imported inflation. So here firms are forced to increase prices because the costs of productions are rising. So they have to transfer those costs via higher prices to consumers. So that's how we talk about cost push inflation, whereby we see an increase in cost pushing inflationary pressure from price P1 to P2. So those are the two causes of inflation that you have to know. So the first thing, that the most important thing that you have to know is that demand pull inflation is very it's very healthy for an economy, because you see an increase in growth, then you're going to see an increase in demand inflationary pressure, but it increases growth, which means it incentivizes firms to continue to produce, knowing that there will be an increase in demand. But with cost push inflation, there's little that the economy can do to control such type of inflation, which is cost push inflation. It's very disastrous. It's very difficult for us to control cost push inflation, as it reduces growth in the economy. So it's very disastrous. So you can't have your main evaluation points where we just say demand inflation is quite healthy for the economy, but with cost push inflation, it's very severe. It reduces growth. So those are the two main causes of inflation that you have to know. So on the next video, we'll be looking at the costs and benefits of inflation. So I'll see you on the next video. So thank you very much for watching.